So, I've been kind of like contemplating something recently. Um, and it's this idea that feeling isn't a distraction from purpose, but it genuinely just is purpose. Um, because I think there's so many things to focus on in this world and in our daily lives that we often forget what it even means to actually get stuff in this world and achieve things because in society, like we want to achieve things, right? We want to have certain experiences to feel certain ways. And that's the thing. We want to do these things to feel certain ways. So if you're trying to do something or if you're trying to, have a certain experience and you're having negative emotions come up, don't shun them away. Like, it the negative emotion is but a spectrum of something you want. You want the positive emotion. So why are you treating these negative emotions like such a disease? You know, for the past few days, I've genuinely been practicing such a radical acceptance for my life and this openness to everything you feel is genuinely what I feel from the deep is genuinely I feel like it's genuinely just like our power. It comes from accepting everything because for a person to live in such resistance to their life, I think that's kind of like a weak person. I'm not even going to lie. Like, if you're always being so tunnel vision on every little thing in your life, then I think that you have to do some serious changing in the way that you think if you want to actually live a fulfilled life. Practicing this acceptance for these past few days for me has felt so freeing. I've genuinely, definitely had negative emotions pop up. Like right now, I did have a certain trigger, but like it's this feeling that what am I shutting it away for? What am I trying to do? You know, You know, happiness isn't forever, and neither is sadness or anger or any negative emotion. So, in that moment of lowness, for you to just want to distract yourself and to just shut it away and act like it's below you or you need to be feeling better, I think that it's just like this whole life is just about feeling. You know, what's the point of achieving your goals, really? You want to feel successful. You want to feel fulfilled. I think fulfillment is the depth of what everybody wants in their life. So, so I think fulfillment only comes when you accept every situation that you're in, every mental circumstance, every emotional vibration that you find yourself in, negative or positive. You just accept it. Like, what find acceptance to look like for me is like open arms. You have open arms to this world. And I used to not understand acceptance. I used to feel like, um, of course I accept it, or of course I'm feeling these emotions because they're my emotions. But what truly helped me in accepting these emotions was welcoming them with like hospitality, with open arms, just being like, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome in my body, in my vibration. You're welcome to be here. you know, because nothing really is bad, everything just is. Um, all the experiences that you label as bad, it just is. And I've really been thinking about that lately, how why am I torturing myself with the fact that I have bad experiences or bad emotions? It doesn't have to be bad. And I just really realized that I was like, I can just stop with the labeling and just let it be what it always was, which is just is. It just is. So that really allowed me to enter a state of acceptance. And in that acceptance, I really just thought, like, this is all that life is about, because I feel that often, like, we are so physical in this world and materialistic, not in the sense of like you want so many things, but just in the sense of like life is about achievement, life is about experience. And I think that feeling is an experience, Two people can be in the same room. One, they can both be in the same room of laughing with friends or like, I don't know, uh, going to an amusement park or something, right? And one person can feel so free and alive and like this is such a fun experience to be experiencing. And the other is not even there mentally. They're being tortured by their own experience within themselves. So it's like if your goal was to have that experience of going to the amusement park or whatever, um, then I think that's a bad goal, to be honest, because it's like I think that I realized that, it's never the experience that we want. And I'm sure we all know this. It's always the feeling. So it's like, I kind of been thinking that, like, we should start to chase perspective instead of things. And what I mean by this is perspective in the sense of like knowing what you want, knowing what you truly want in this life. Because you may think you want something, and then when you get it, you actually don't want that. So maybe what you wanted was to want it. I don't know if this is making sense to you, but it really does make sense to me. Because it's like, if you thought you wanted an experience or an achievement, and then you get that thing, and you feel slightly off, but maybe you are fulfilled because your ego is getting that fulfillment and validation within that achievement. But if that is not what your soul truly wanted, then you're going to feel, what's the word? You're going to feel off. You're going to feel off. So you have to really just, I think this whole point is just to really dive deep into who you are, not in a shallow personality way, but in a subconscious, subtle energy way. And I've been trying to limit my interactions with social media and my phone and trying to be more still because stillness really opened me to my subtle energies of emotion. You know, maybe somebody said something really quick and I felt something, but if I was preoccupied with something that I seen online a few minutes ago, then I might have not caught that. So I think if you're delving deep into your own energies, then you better understand what you truly want. And then knowing what you truly want, you can actually bring fulfillment within your life, because life is all about feeling, you know. I don't think that, I think that studying your emotional self never can go in vain, because that is truly all we are, is emotions, you know. Because without emotions, life just is neutral, you know. If without emotions, you wouldn't think that you had a bad life, or you wouldn't think you had a good life. It just would be. So what we truly want is emotions. So studying your own emotions, I think, is the biggest stepping stone that you can do to actually um, get anywhere in this life. Because I think you, in a way, you have to make peace with the fact that you may not like where you're at right now. You have to, obviously, like, I'm not saying that never do anything physical, because in this life we live in a physical world. So it's like you do things physical. But if you have a sense of doubt, you just make peace and open your acceptance to just realizing that it just is, you know, the doubt just is. And I say this so simply because it is a really simple thing. And I feel like sometimes we overcomplicate what it really means to accept or to transmute negative emotions. Because transmutation really just is about accepting and placing our awareness on what we don't like. So I guess this whole point was that feeling is everything. Never think that you're doing too much because you keep on having lingering emotions or certain energies or emotions that just follow you. Don't ever think don't ever think you're doing too much, because that's information. That's information about yourself and information about how you should be living your life. So I say all this to say that just become more still. Just notice yourself more. And I feel like if we all start to notice ourselves more, I feel like we can just be fulfilled in that. And maybe you don't even actually want anything. And some people realize that. That's why you see some people just doing whatever and doing the most simplest things, because feeling is everything. They feel fulfillment within themselves. And I think it's so hard in today's society to actually want to feel fulfilled, because it's like you want the look. And maybe you know deep down that what you want truly doesn't look that good to society or to social media. So it's like you put that aside and you're like, I'm going to get this because I know that people will approve of me, and that will validate the fact that your life is worth living. And I was really also thinking about that too. I was thinking that, why do we need other people to validate our worth of living? Because I'm in a season of solitude right now. And I was thinking of why, I guess I was thinking, why am I going to do this certain thing if nobody's even here to see me do it? And I truly meant that. I was genuinely just thinking on that. And then I realized I don't even want that. I don't even want to do that. So that was my answer. If you're a completely different person when you're not being perceived in the eyes of others, and I think that is your guiding point. I don't say this to say to cut everybody off, but spend time by yourself. Turn off your phone. Become still within your body and mind and soul. And I think part of this also goes with don't take your mind so seriously. I think with feeling, you just have to be aware within the feeling state, not within the mind state, because the mind just tells you whatever it's feeling. If you're feeling sad, there's no possible thought in your mind that can conjure up anything positive. You might think, this is my life now. I'm sad. I'm a sad person. I'm a sad person. And maybe you can logically think that's not true. But deep down, your thoughts are going to align with sadness because that is what you're feeling. But then maybe the next moment you're happy and then you suddenly have this new optimism for life. And I'm laughing because as women, with our cycle, it's genuinely an experience to always feel subject to our emotional state. So, yeah, I say this to say that, yeah, don't take your mind too seriously either. I think that all of this is just tapping into the present moment because that is all that life really is. And I think you really have to just experience it for yourself to gain an appreciation for it. Because I feel like shutting down the ego is one of the hardest things to do because it's like our whole life we were told to be a certain way or to want certain things. Like, I don't know, you know? It's like we were told these things, so we think it's a part of us. And when we let it go, it's painful. It feels like we're losing a part of ourselves when that's not true. So that's why just feel. Feeling is your purpose, truly. Feeling is your purpose because feeling can get you far more closer to places than you would ever think. Okay? I feel like when you block down this joy of feeling, then your life is but a routine. Your life is but you move from subject A, subject B, do all these tasks because you have to. But when you feel, I feel like life becomes more expansive and more of a gradual, slow swirl and spiral instead of a rigid obstacle to be conquered. Yeah. And everyone's journey is different. If you're not in this place of mind right now, then I'm not going to force it upon you either. You can still try to achieve those things, and maybe that is what you want to do. Maybe you do want these things. But don't be afraid to ask yourself, or don't be afraid to sit with those negative emotions because they'll tell you a lot more than what your positive emotions will tell you. Because I feel like positive emotions, we can kind of confuse it for just our ego being validated. But a negative emotion, that is just the raw essence of, I feel like, just what you feel. So, yeah, that's really all I had to say. I was just doing a lot of thinking on this, and I think it's really important.